Welcome to the Bandano Podcast, where we're calling a spade a spade. Great to be here with you guys today, and happy Easter. Caitlin Clark is due for a massive pay day. Last year on the rookie scale, she made 85 grand. This year, with the new CBA, courtesy of CC22, she's going to be making well over $500,000. And a former player of the Chicago Sky, Rebecca Allen, absolutely trashes that basketball organization. She said she was practicing, and then out of nowhere, Sandy comes in, walking off the street. She looks to her.
The locker room door swung open, and it wasn't a teammate walking in. It was a random woman from the street, ready to change for her morning workout right next to a professional WNBA star. This is the absolute dumpster fire reality of the Chicago Sky that has Angel Reese and the rest of the league losing their minds. While the world stares at the massive leaked salary numbers for Caitlin Clark, a former player just exposed the gut-wrenching truth about what life is really like in Chicago. They call it a professional organization, but the stories coming out right now suggest it is more like a neighborhood rec center. The gap between the haves and the have-nots has never been wider, and the tension is finally boiling over as the money starts to flood in for the elite.
Absolutely trashes that basketball organization. She said she was practicing, and then out of nowhere, Sandy comes in, walking off the street. She looks to her left, and a random person is changing next to her in the middle of practice. You can't make this up. Let's get right into it. Please like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Notable projected WNBA salary increases per the new CBA. This is reported by Spotrac, who dives all into the metrics when it comes to the financials of basketball.
Caitlin Clark is officially entering a different tax bracket, and the numbers are staggering compared to where she started. Last year, she was on a rookie scale making around $85,000, but with the new CBA and the massive influence of the CC22 brand, she is projected to clear well over $500,000 this year. We are talking about a jump from $85,000 to $528,000 in a single leap. It is a financial revolution that has captured the attention of every front office and agent in the country, but as the ceiling rises for the league's biggest superstar, the floor is falling out from under teams like the Chicago Sky. The disparity between the paychecks and the playing conditions is becoming impossible to ignore.
Track, who dives all into the metrics when it comes to the financials of basketball. Aaliyah Boston goes from making $94K to $574,000. Of course, we're not accounting for her getting the salary bump that she is due because she made an all WNBA team last year. This could be well over $1 million for Aaliyah Boston, but if we just take it scale to scale, currently from what they're making, she could go from $94K to $574K. Caitlin Clark going from 85 grand to 528,000. Paige Becker's going from 80K to 500,000. Cameron Brink, 85.
While Caitlin is preparing for a massive payday, Angel Reese is seeing a much different reality on paper. Because Reese slid down the draft board to the number 7 spot, she is looking at a projected salary of $350,000. That is a massive $87,000 less than her teammate Camila Cardoso, simply because of where they were selected in the draft. Imagine being one of the most famous faces in the sport and realizing your bank account is taking a hit because of draft day politics. The math is simple, but the frustration is real. Reese is essentially watching millions of dollars in potential earnings fluctuate based on a scale that many think is outdated. It is a bitter pill to swallow when you are the one putting people in the seats.
Why are people in the same draft class making different amounts of money? Well, it has to do with where they got drafted. Angel Reese slid down that draft board, not making as much as the people drafted in front of her, i.e. Cameron Brink. I would assume Rickea Jackson as well would be making more than Angel Reese on this new pay scale. And Sonia Citrone, based on where she got drafted last year, she's going from 80K to $436,000. You take a look at some of the comments. Spotrac even, it says these are base value escalators that don't yet include the additional honor bonuses being built in.
But the money is only half the battle. Former Chicago Sky player Rebecca Allen just pulled back the curtain on the organization, and what she revealed is nothing short of a nightmare. She described her time in Chicago as a little bit miserable, especially when compared to the professional standards she saw in New York and Phoenix. The most shocking part of her testimony involved the team's training facility, or lack thereof. Allen revealed that the team was practicing at a public recreation center where privacy was non-existent. She recalled being in the middle of a practice session and seeing random members of the public just strolling through. It is hard to feel like a world-class athlete when you are sharing your workspace with people who just showed up for a casual cardio session.
I hope all of them have their thank you notes ready to mail in to Caitlin Clark. Yes, send your thank you cards to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark's projected WNBA salary catches everybody's attention. Take a look at the article. Indiana Fever superstar guard Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest names in all of women's sports. Clark was taken with the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft by the Fever after an incredible career in college with the Iowa Hawkeyes. In her 2 years in the WNBA, Clark has played 53 games, scoring 18.5 points to go along with 5.5.
The locker room situation was even more embarrassing for a professional franchise in a major market like Chicago. Allen recounted a specific moment where she was changing in the locker room and looked over to see a random lady from the public changing right next to her. There were no private facilities, no elite security, and no professional boundaries. She literally had to say hello to strangers while trying to prepare for high-stakes professional basketball games. This is the definition of a dumpster fire. While teams like the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty are building state-of-the-art palaces for their players, the Sky players are basically living the life of a high school JV team. It is a slap in the face to the talent they have on the roster.
Clark would be the third highest paid player in the league. That's not true. Once the Caitlin Clark wave is over in a few years, the WNBA is going bankrupt. They won't be able to keep up with the salary, said one pessimistic user. Caitlin Clark due for a massive payday this upcoming season. Of course, we're already projecting towards 2027. She's going to be getting the super duper max salary. So the Indiana Fever are going to have to figure out how all of these players are going to get paid. Clark's due for a super max. AB's due for a max. We shall see moving forward. Quick little tidbit. I know this changes like the weather, so take this with a grain of salt.
When you look at the new salary projections, the gap between the top players and the rest is widening fast. Aaliyah Boston is expected to go from making $94,000 to a staggering $574,000. If you factor in her all WNBA honors, she could potentially be the first player to break the $1 million mark under this new scale. These are base value escalators that don't even include the additional bonuses being built into the system. The league is finally starting to pay up, but it is creating a hierarchy that is causing friction. Everyone is being told to have their thank you notes ready to mail to Caitlin Clark because her arrival is the primary reason these numbers are even possible. It is her wave that is lifting all the boats.
At a rec center. So I'd never really experienced something like that before too. So, and I was really overwhelmed by that. I was like, oh wow, you know, I had a random lady getting changed next to me. I was like, oh, hey Wendy.
I'm back.
Hey, Rebecca Allen, it could have been worse. In some places in the country, it could have been way worse.
So I know I found all that sort of stuff. I wish that maybe I came into that experience with a bit more of an open mind. If I had done that, maybe I would have accepted some of it more. But yeah, so I think that there's things where you do need to, if you're an owner, you can't be tight. You just can't be tight financially.
Use one.
However, not everyone is happy about the source of the wealth. There is a growing sentiment that the league's survival is now tethered almost entirely to one person. Some pessimistic onlookers are already predicting that once the Caitlin Clark wave subsides in a few years, the WNBA could face a serious financial crisis or even bankruptcy. They argue that the league won't be able to sustain these massive salary increases if the viewership doesn't remain at these record-breaking levels. It is a high-stakes gamble. The league is betting everything on the idea that this momentum is permanent. But if the infrastructure of teams like the Chicago Sky doesn't improve, the players might not care how much they are getting paid if they still have to share a shower with a stranger.
Practicing, they gotta go to the locker room, maybe get a drink, maybe change, whatever the case may be. In the middle of changing, they wait, You're not on our team. No, I'm not on our team. I just got here for a workout. Oh, the Chicago Sky. Every day, you just realize how pathetic the Chicago Sky organization is. But it's their fault. But to an extent, it's not. I mean, they're not making money. These owners aren't making money. So it's hard to kind of hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, you got to invest, you got to invest, you got to invest. Meanwhile, their response would be, I'm not making money. I don't really have anything to invest. You want me to continue to go?
The Chicago Sky organization is currently under fire because they simply aren't keeping up with the evolution of the sport. While the Indiana Fever are about to unveil a massive dedicated training facility, the Sky are still stuck in a cycle of financial tightness. Rebecca Allen pointed out that as an owner, you simply cannot be tight with your money in this new era. You have to invest in the players if you want them to perform. She noted that organizations need to raise their level to meet minimum standards so players don't feel overwhelmed by the lack of professionalism. When a player uses the word miserable to describe her experience in your city, you have a massive PR problem on your hands. It makes you wonder why any top-tier free agent would ever choose Chicago. The salary leaks also revealed some interesting nuggets about other rising stars. Paige Buchers is projected to hit the $500,000 mark, while Cameron Brink is sitting just under that at $493,000. Even players like Nika Moole and Kate Martin are seeing their projected earnings triple as they move into the new year. It is a gold rush in the WNBA, but the distribution of that gold is strictly tied to the draft board. This is exactly why the tension around Angel Reese is so high. She is arguably one of the biggest draws in the sport, yet she is being paid significantly less than players who have a fraction of her social media following or marketability. The system is based on draft position, not necessarily on the value you bring to the table. The technical details of the new CBA are where things get really complicated. These aren't just random raises, they are calculated base value escalators. For example, JC Sheldon is set to be paid over $400,000, which is over $100,000 more than a future all-star like Leonie Fibic. There is no complex formula here. It is just basic math dictated by the new agreement. But math doesn't account for ego or the reality of the locker room. When you have players in the same locker room making vastly different amounts while sharing a public bathroom, you are asking for trouble. The Sky are sitting on a powder keg of resentment and poor management that could blow up at any moment if ownership doesn't step up. Caitlin Clark's impact extends far beyond the court and into the retail space as well. There is already massive anticipation for her signature shoe, which is expected to drop in late September of 2026. They are already planning Christmas and Halloween colorways to capitalize on the hype. The league is timing everything to build anticipation, hoping that by the time the playoffs roll around, everyone will be flocking to buy the gear. But while Clark is building a billion-dollar empire, players in Chicago are just hoping they can get through a practice without a random person asking them for a towel. The contrast is jarring. One player is the face of Nike, while others are the face of a struggling rec center facility.
Ownership's excuse has always been the same. We aren't making enough money to invest. But with the new CBA, that excuse is officially dead. The league is expecting owners to reach into their pockets and meet a new set of minimum standards. You can't just claim poverty while the league's valuation is skyrocketing. Chicago is a massive market with a passionate fan base, but the fans can't fix a broken facility. If the owners continue to be financially tight, they are going to lose their best talent to teams like the Liberty or the Mercury, where the players are treated like the superstars they are. Rebecca Allen's comments were a warning shot to the entire league. The days of playing in the shadows are over. The injury history of Caitlin Clark also plays a role in these future projections. People forget that after her incredible rookie year, she dealt with a major groin injury and bone bruising in her left knee that limited her to just 13 games in the 2025 season. Despite those setbacks, her value never wavered. The league knows she is the golden goose. That is why they were so willing to restructure the salary scales. They need her healthy and they need her happy. But they also need the rest of the league to look professional. If a scout or a free agent hears that Chicago is a miserable place to play, the entire league's reputation takes a hit.
You are only as strong as your weakest link, and right now, that link is in Chicago.
Angel Reese's frustration isn't just about the money, it is about the respect. She has been a lightning rod for the league, bringing in new fans and creating a rivalry that has fueled the WNBA's growth. To see her salary dwarfed by others simply because of her number 7 draft position feels like a glitch in the system. When you add the fact that she's playing for an organization that struggles to provide a private locker room, you can see why the word snap is being used to describe the situation. She is a powerhouse athlete being treated like an afterthought by the very system she is helping to build. The Sky better hope that a new facility is coming sooner rather than later, or they might see their star walk away.
The projected salary for Sonia Citron is another example of the massive jumps we are seeing, moving from $80,000 to $436,000. This isn't just a small raise, it is life-changing money for these women. It allows them to focus entirely on basketball without needing to play overseas during the offseason just to make ends meet. This was the dream for the WNBA for decades, and it is finally happening, but with big money comes big expectations. If the league is going to pay these players like stars, the teams have to provide facilities that match that status. You can't pay someone $500,000 and then tell them to get changed in a public hallway. The situation with the Chicago Sky is particularly frustrating because Chicago is such a big market. It should be a crown jewel of the league, yet it is being treated like a secondary thought. The fans show up, the energy is there, but the infrastructure is crumbling. It will take something drastic for the Sky to lose their franchise, but they are certainly testing the limits of player patience. The new CBA is going to force their hand. They will be expected to invest, whether they want to or not. If they don't, the league might have to step in and hold their feet to the fire. You can't have a dumpster fire burning in one of your biggest cities while you are trying to sell a polished product. Looking toward 2027, we are already hearing whispers about supermax salaries. The Indiana Fever are going to have a massive puzzle to solve as they try to keep both Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston on the roster, while both are eligible for massive paydays. This is a good problem to have, but it is a problem nonetheless. It requires sophisticated front office management and a deep understanding of the cap. Meanwhile, the Sky are still trying to figure out how to keep random people out of their practices. It is a tale of two leagues. One is moving toward a professional future, while the other is stuck in a past that most players want to forget. The Wendy story from Rebecca Allen's interview has become a symbol of everything wrong with the old WNBA way of doing things. The idea of a player having to say hey to a random gym member named Wendy while preparing for a game is both hilarious and heartbreaking. It shows a complete lack of basic security and professional standards. Allen admitted she wished she had an open mind, but how open can your mind be when your privacy is being invaded daily? It is an overwhelming experience that no top-tier athlete should have to endure. This isn't a hobby, it is a multi-million-dollar business, and it is time for every owner to start acting like it. Even the shoes are part of the controversy. The fact that Caitlin Clark's signature line is already being mapped out with holiday colorways shows how much the corporate world is betting on her. The anticipation is being built years in advance. This kind of marketing was previously reserved for the NBA's elite. Now it is the standard for the W. But as the sneakers fly off the shelves, the reality of the daily grind remains for many. The league salaries have exposed a truth that many fans didn't want to see. The WNBA is currently a league of extreme highs and embarrassing lows. The gap is no longer just about points on the scoreboard. It is about the basic dignity of the players. If the Chicago Sky want to survive this transition, they need to act fast. They can't wait for a new facility to be ready in quite some time. They need a solution now. With players like Angel Reese on the roster, the spotlight is never going to leave them. Every mistake, every public locker room encounter, and every miserable comment is going to be magnified tenfold. The owners might complain about not making money, but in this new era of the WNBA, you have to spend money to make money. The Caitlin Clark effect has provided the revenue. Now the teams have to provide the environment. If they don't, the dumpster fire will eventually consume the entire organization. The math is final, and the salaries are set for the upcoming season. Caitlin Clark will lead the way with her $500,000 paycheck, followed by a host of other stars who are finally getting their due. But the legacy of this season might not be the points scored or the games won. It might be the moment the league finally forced its owners to grow up. The leaked numbers were the spark, and Rebecca Allen's interview was the fuel. The players are no longer staying silent about the conditions they are forced to endure. They know their value, they know the revenue they are generating, and they are finished with being treated like second-class citizens in their own facilities. As we move forward, the focus will remain on how these teams manage their new wealth and their mounting scandals. Will the Chicago Sky finally build a facility that matches the talent of Angel Reese, or will they continue to be the league's most prominent cautionary tale? The fans are watching, the players are talking, and the random people at the rec center are still changing in the locker rooms. The clock is ticking for the old guard of the WNBA. The new era is here, fueled by massive salaries and even bigger expectations. It is time to put out the dumpster fire and start building a league that actually deserves the superstars who play in it. Ultimately, the WNBA is at a tipping point. The influx of cash from the new CBA and the star power of players like Clark and Reese have created a landscape that is both exciting and volatile. We are seeing the growing pains of a league that is finally stepping into the big leagues of professional sports. But as the salaries leak and the facility horror stories surface, one thing is clear: the players are the ones driving this bus, and they aren't going to settle for anything less than excellence. Whether it is through thank you notes to Caitlin Clark or snapping at front offices, the message is loud and clear. The professional standard has changed, and it is time for the organizations to catch up.